The Galactic Army arrived on Earth with unshakable confidence, every detail of their operation finely tuned, each soldier armed with advanced weaponry, and every piece of armor glinting under the daylight. Their leaders had assured them that Earth was a primitive world, with little more than basic defenses, barely worthy of the effort. As they touched down, they scanned the surroundings with high-tech sensors, searching for any sign of human resistance, though they expected none. They moved through a dense forest, lined up in perfect formation. The ground was uneven, the air filled with scents unfamiliar to them. Alien scouts glanced around, noting the odd quiet, no sound of animals, no movement in the trees. To them, it felt like an empty battlefield. Their scanners swept the area in steady rhythms, looking for heat signatures, weaponry, or any sign of life, but everything read as calm and still. They didn't expect anything here to be a threat. Earth was simply another territory, another checkmark on their conquest list. Yet, there was an odd feeling creeping over the soldiers, an inexplicable sense that they were being watched. Some began to glance sideways, trying to shake off a feeling they couldn't understand. A light rustle from the trees to their right made a few of them pause, weapons at the ready, but they saw nothing unusual. To the Galactic Army, the forest was a place without cover, open and vulnerable. They believed their scanners could see everything. But in truth, they were walking blind. A senior commander, standing tall at the head of the group, reassured his troops, scoffing at their skittishness. He told them this was a simple mission, nothing to worry about. Humans were weak, untrained, and easily overpowered. The tension eased, and they pressed forward, more confident with each step. Yet, as they moved deeper into the forest, the feeling of being watched returned, stronger this time. It was as if the forest itself was alive, hiding something beyond their reach. Their footsteps grew quieter, movements more cautious. The shadows between the trees seemed to grow darker, and despite their best technology, no one could pinpoint the source of their discomfort. Suddenly, one of the scouts halted, eyes wide as he pointed to a nearby bush. But when the others looked, they saw only leaves, unmoving and ordinary. The commander chuckled, dismissing it as nerves, a rookie mistake. Still, the silence in the forest was unsettling, unnatural. The soldiers' faces, hidden beneath helmets, began to reflect uncertainty. Their leader ordered them to spread out, hoping to cover more ground and put an end to this paranoia. The soldiers followed, but the eerie quiet only seemed to deepen. Even the wind had stilled, as if the entire forest held its breath, waiting. Each step they took felt heavier, and although they were spread out, not a single one of them could shake the feeling that they were being tracked. A faint snapping sound broke the silence, so quiet it could have been a twig underfoot, but the soldiers froze, instincts kicking in. Eyes darted left and right, fingers tightening on triggers, breaths held. Yet, their scanners showed nothing. No heat signatures, no movements, no life forms other than their own. It made no sense. The commander barked out orders to keep moving, irritated by the delay, but even he couldn't deny the growing tension. In a forest so still, every sound seemed amplified, each rustle a potential threat. The soldiers' training told them to trust their equipment, to rely on their data, but their instincts were beginning to betray them. More rustling. This time, it was closer. One soldier shifted uneasily, glancing over his shoulder. Still nothing. They continued forward, hearts pounding, each one convinced they were alone yet certain that something was out there. The commander, growing impatient, reminded them that humans were easy prey, incapable of advanced tactics or hiding techniques. Their technology was inferior, their defenses weak. But as he spoke, his words felt hollow, as if he was trying to convince himself. Then, just as quickly as it began, the rustling stopped. The forest fell silent once more, but the silence was different now, thick, heavy, as if something unseen lingered just beyond their sight. They resumed their march, but each soldier was alert, eyes flicking back and forth, ears straining for the slightest sound. The commander adjusted his weapon, squinting into the shadows as if he could force whatever was out there to reveal itself. But the forest remained still, unyielding, and utterly quiet. Each step forward was taken with caution, each movement tentative. And although they couldn't see it, they all knew they were not alone. The alien soldiers moved cautiously through the dense forest, their senses on high alert. Suddenly, a shot rang out, piercing the eerie silence and sending one of the soldiers dropping to the ground instantly. Panic rippled through the ranks. The Galactic Army soldiers scrambled, trying to locate the origin of the attack, but their advanced scanners showed nothing, no heat signature, no visible trace of a shooter. The remaining soldiers instinctively took cover, pressing themselves against trees and rocks, weapons ready, eyes scanning every inch of their surroundings. Fear gripped them. They were trained to handle many threats, but this was unlike anything they had encountered. Their commander tried to restore order, barking commands to his troops, urging them to form a defensive line. But the invisible enemy struck again. Another shot echoed through the trees, and another soldier fell. It was as if the forest itself had turned against them, an unseen predator picking them off one by one. The aliens' high-tech equipment, usually infallible, failed to pick up anything, no movement, no body heat, nothing to track. The soldiers realized they were up against a foe with a mastery of camouflage that was beyond their understanding, someone who could blend perfectly into the natural landscape and remain undetected. The Galactic soldiers, usually the hunters, found themselves hunted. Their initial confidence drained away, replaced by a mounting fear that they couldn't shake. Each alien soldier gripped their weapon tighter, eyes darting from shadow to shadow, scanning for any sign of their hidden enemy. But Earth's sniper was patient, waiting in complete silence, biding their time. Every soldier knew that moving even an inch might be their last mistake. They didn't know when or where the next shot would come from. They only knew that it would be silent and swift. Desperation crept into the Galactic Army ranks as their sophisticated devices, normally capable of detecting any threat, were rendered useless. The camouflage skills of Earth's sniper defied all of their advanced technology. They had never faced an opponent who could simply disappear into the environment, becoming one with the surroundings. Every new attempt to locate the source of the shots ended in failure. Their commanders tried to devise a new plan, deploying small drones to scout the area, hoping to spot any disturbance in the landscape, any trace of movement. But each drone returned with the same data: nothing. Not a hint of a human presence. The soldiers' breathing grew shallow as their nerves frayed. They tried to communicate with each other through hand signals, barely daring to make a sound, fearing that any noise would give away their position. Their usual military discipline wavered under the relentless pressure of an invisible enemy. They had trained for countless scenarios, but they had never trained for this, for an opponent who could strike without warning and vanish as if they had never been there. The alien troops felt the weight of their own vulnerability, surrounded by shadows that could conceal death at any moment. As they tried to move deeper into the forest, their formation became scattered, no longer the organized force they had been moments before. Earth's sniper used this to their advantage, watching as the soldiers' confidence crumbled. The aliens were now moving cautiously, halting with every step, expecting an attack at any moment. Some began to look over their shoulders, tense and jumpy, eyes wide with fear. They had come to conquer, yet here they were, immobilized by an enemy they could not see or predict. Every rustle of leaves, every shift in the shadows became a potential threat. More shots cracked through the silence, swift and deadly. One by one, soldiers dropped, their companions powerless to stop the onslaught. The commander's voice, which had once sounded commanding and sure, now held an edge of panic. He ordered his troops to fall back, realizing that pressing forward would only lead to more casualties. But even retreat was dangerous in the face of an opponent who seemed to control the forest itself, moving unseen, striking without mercy. The Galactic Army had come to Earth expecting an easy victory, but now they were simply trying to survive, each soldier hoping to make it out alive. The sniper's precision and patience were unyielding. Every shot was deliberate, every target chosen with care. Earth's defender was not in a hurry. They moved at their own pace, one silent step ahead of the aliens, blending into the forest with a skill that defied all reason. The aliens, who had thought themselves invincible with their advanced technology, were now at the mercy of a lone figure hidden in plain sight. Their scanners, designed to detect the slightest human presence, were outmatched by Earth's unique camouflage techniques, which made the sniper appear as nothing more than part of the landscape. Fear transformed into raw terror as the Galactic Army realized their plight. They had never felt such helplessness, never imagined they could be outmatched by a single enemy, especially one who seemed so ordinary. Yet, this sniper was no ordinary human. The sniper's deep understanding of the terrain, the forest's natural cover, and the ways of silence and patience had turned their own advanced technology against them. The sniper's every movement, unseen and undetectable, exposed the Galactic Army's ignorance, showing them the limits of their supposed superiority. In the face of an enemy they couldn't locate, couldn't predict, and couldn't understand, the Galactic Army had no choice but to fall back. They moved in tight groups, covering each other, yet knowing it was futile. Earth's sniper had become the master of their fear, the architect of their defeat. Each soldier carried the weight of knowing that any moment could be their last. The forest, which they had once dismissed as primitive, had become a place of nightmares, its shadows concealing a force they couldn't comprehend. As the remaining soldiers retreated, the silence of the forest resumed, as if nothing had happened. The sniper remained hidden, watching as the Galactic Army withdrew in disarray. The Earth's defender had made their point, this was their home, and they would protect it, no matter the cost. The Galactic soldiers left with a newfound understanding of Earth, carrying with them a story of a silent, invisible foe who had brought an entire army to its knees without ever showing their face. Earth's sniper waited, hidden in the shadows, listening to the muffled movements of the alien soldiers who now moved cautiously, haunted by fear. Each step they took was slower, every glance more frantic. The sniper watched with calculated patience, knowing that panic would serve as a better weapon than any bullet. This was a test of discipline, and the Galactic soldiers were failing. They had lost the organized force they'd started with, reduced to scattered, tense individuals who barely dared to breathe. For the sniper, this was familiar territory. Patience and precision were their allies, not the technology the aliens had come to rely on. The sniper's skills weren't just about blending in but using every advantage Earth's terrain provided. Every tree, shadow, and stone became a tool in their arsenal. They moved unseen, their camouflaged form perfectly still, only shifting when necessary. Unlike the alien soldiers, the sniper understood how to use silence. They didn't rush. Instead, they let the enemy come to them, allowing each alien to reveal their vulnerabilities. Every detail was calculated, every shot taken only when the sniper was certain it would land. It was a discipline that the Galactic Army lacked, a skill honed from years of blending into nature's background, studying its patterns, and understanding how to become one with it. As the aliens continued their search, they began setting up complex devices, attempting to locate their invisible enemy. Advanced sensors scanned the surroundings, their lights blinking as they gathered data, and drones buzzed overhead, hoping to detect the slightest anomaly. But every piece of technology failed to reveal the sniper's position. Earth's defender didn't just hide, they anticipated every move, understanding that the aliens were used to finding enemies through data and scans. Here, none of that mattered. The sniper knew the forest was their best ally, and they used it with an expertise the aliens couldn't match. The Galactic soldiers grew more frustrated, their nerves visibly frayed. Every passing minute wore on them, eroding whatever confidence they had left. As each failed attempt to locate the sniper increased their desperation, Earth's defender observed quietly, taking in every reaction. The sniper recognized the signs, the slight hesitation before each step, the quick, paranoid glances, the grip tightening on weapons. This was the look of an army losing its resolve. The aliens were skilled, but they were trained for combat that relied on technology, not a fight against an invisible, patient adversary. Another shot echoed through the forest, and another alien soldier fell. The sniper's tactic was clear: strike, disappear, wait, and let fear do the rest. The Galactic Army was losing soldiers without ever getting a glimpse of their opponent. The sniper took only a few well-aimed shots, each one calculated to create maximum impact with minimal exposure. They knew that every fallen soldier amplified the fear among the rest, creating a wave of tension that spread through the alien ranks. By the time they realized what was happening, their formation was in disarray, and the few who tried to regroup did so out of sheer instinct, not strategy. The aliens had come expecting to dominate, yet here they were, controlled by an unseen force that struck without warning and left no trace. The sniper's method was to wear them down psychologically, using their own fears against them. Each time a soldier dropped, it left the rest more rattled, their minds racing to understand an enemy they could neither see nor predict. This was not the type of combat they had trained for. Their routines, strategies, and advanced weapons were useless here. The sniper exploited every hesitation, every flinch, waiting until the aliens were at their most vulnerable before taking the next shot. Despite the alien commander's attempts to rally his troops, his words did little to restore morale. The sniper observed him closely, seeing how his frustration grew with each failed maneuver, each unreturned shot. He knew his troops were struggling, their nerves fraying under the constant threat. But he couldn't figure out how to counter an enemy he couldn't locate. In his frustration, he made critical errors, moving too openly, exposing his position, relying too heavily on the technology that had now become a crutch rather than an asset. Earth's sniper could see it clearly. The commander's confidence was slipping, and with it, any chance his troops had of regaining control. The sniper capitalized on this, waiting for the exact moment when the commander looked away, distracted, before making the next strike. Another soldier fell, and the alien line crumbled further. With each shot, the sniper grew more assured, understanding that fear was more powerful than any weapon. The Galactic Army was breaking under pressure, unable to adapt to this invisible, methodical threat. Their ranks thinned as Earth's defender continued to strike with precision, never rushing, never revealing more than necessary. By now, even the slightest sound, leaves rustling, a twig snapping, caused the aliens to flinch, convinced that death could come from any direction. They moved more erratically, retreating from shadows, doubling back, losing any sense of order. The sniper's calm presence in the face of their panic only deepened their sense of helplessness. Earth's defender knew the forest, understood how to move within it silently, unlike the aliens, whose every step seemed clumsy and loud in comparison. As the galactic soldiers grew more desperate, they began using random bursts of fire, shooting into the darkness, hoping to hit anything. But their bullets hit only empty space, the shots lost in the vastness of the forest. This futile attempt only served to heighten their exhaustion. Earth's sniper remained silent, unmoved by their attempts, watching as their desperation spiraled out of control. The aliens' every action signaled that they were out of their depth, their attempts to regain control backfiring with each misstep. The Galactic Army, once a symbol of unity and power, was now scattered, each soldier haunted by the same inescapable thought: they were being hunted. Their once proud stance had crumbled, replaced by haunted eyes and jittery movements, their ranks decimated by an enemy they had never seen. The sniper's patience was unmatched, and their tactics unwavering. The galactic soldiers, once convinced of their superiority, now understood the depth of their miscalculation. The alien commander knew they were in deep trouble. Each passing moment chipped away at his control, and he could feel the fear rippling through his ranks. He understood the gravity of their situation. A single human sniper had reduced their army to a fractured, terrified group. This was not how they had imagined Earth's defenses. They had underestimated the enemy, assuming primitive tactics and outdated weapons. Now they were facing something else entirely, a skilled predator who understood not only the terrain but also how to turn their fear against them. The commander's frustration mounted. His soldiers had begun to lose faith, and it showed. Every attempt to establish control, every order he issued was met with hesitant compliance. They were too shaken to execute orders with precision, each one looking over their shoulder, as though the sniper's gaze was always on them. The air of fear was palpable, like a weight pressing down on everyone. The commander realized that his authority, once unquestioned, was slipping. His soldiers had come to believe in the invincibility of their technology, yet here they were, helpless against a single, unseen enemy. In desperation, he called for a new strategy. He ordered his team to deploy Earth-adapted camouflage gear, hoping that by mimicking the natural surroundings, they could draw the sniper out. It was a rushed attempt, and the unfamiliar equipment only increased their anxiety. Their movements became even more hesitant as they tried to blend into a landscape they barely understood. The alien commander watched his soldiers fumble, understanding the futility, but clinging to any hope of regaining control. He knew this plan was fragile at best, but it was all they had left. As they tried to implement the camouflage, whispers of doubt spread among the troops. Many were beginning to question their leader's judgment, silently wondering if the mission was worth the cost. They had lost too many, and each fallen comrade was a reminder of how little they knew about this enemy. They had never faced anything like this sniper, a master of patience, precision, and control, who struck without warning and then disappeared as if they'd never been there. The commander knew that once doubt took root, it would be impossible to reverse. His soldiers' minds were slipping further into fear, a force as destructive as any weapon. The alien soldiers tried to remain hidden, hoping to catch a glimpse of their invisible adversary. But no matter how still they stood or how closely they scanned their surroundings, they saw nothing. The sniper seemed to know exactly where they were, staying several steps ahead, as if reading their every move. The commander realized that they were playing the sniper's game, on the sniper's terms, and the outcome was becoming painfully clear. Each time he thought they might gain the upper hand, the sniper's next shot would shatter their fragile hopes, leaving another soldier on the ground and the rest teetering on the edge of panic. The sniper's precision was terrifying. Every shot felt personal, a message directed at their morale as much as their numbers. Each strike seemed designed to remind them of their own limitations. The Galactic Army, with all its technology and training, was helpless against someone who understood fear as a weapon. The commander could see it in his soldiers' faces. They no longer saw him as a leader who could protect them. To them, he was just another target, as vulnerable as they were. Their trust was gone, replaced by doubt, and the sniper's impact grew stronger with each silent attack. He ordered a fallback to regroup, hoping that a shift in strategy would bolster their morale. But even the retreat felt futile. Every step back was an admission of defeat, each movement backward a silent acknowledgement of the sniper's control over the battlefield. The soldiers followed, but their movements were tense, jerky, each one expecting to be the next to fall. The once proud Galactic Army, known for its discipline and strength, was now a group of individuals simply trying to survive. The unity they had once relied upon had dissolved, replaced by isolation, each soldier alone in their fear. The commander's mind raced, searching for any solution, any tactic that could turn the tide. But nothing seemed sufficient against an opponent who wielded patience and invisibility with such deadly effectiveness. He began to question everything he knew about warfare, realizing that none of his strategies applied here. They had underestimated the adaptability of a human defender, assuming that Earth soldiers would crumble under their superior firepower. Instead, they had encountered a kind of resilience and skill that defied their expectations. The sniper's actions revealed an intimate knowledge of psychological warfare, a trait the commander had never thought possible in a so-called primitive species. This wasn't just about picking off soldiers. It was about dismantling an entire force by breaking its spirit. The sniper had studied them, understood their weaknesses, and used that knowledge to control the entire battlefield without ever being seen. The commander was beginning to understand that the sniper was more than just a human with a weapon. They were a strategist, a predator who had mastered the art of fear. He glanced at his remaining soldiers, noting the exhaustion in their stances, the haunted look in their eyes. They had lost the will to fight, each one more focused on survival than on the mission. Their initial purpose had been forgotten, replaced by a desperate need to escape. The commander felt a pang of guilt, realizing that he had led them into this, blinded by his own arrogance. He had underestimated Earth, assuming that this would be an easy conquest. Now, his entire army was paying the price. As he looked into the shadows, he felt the weight of his own vulnerability. He understood that, in this moment, he was as powerless as the soldiers who looked to him for guidance. The sniper had outsmarted him at every turn, exposing his weaknesses and dismantling his authority. He could no longer think of this as a battle. It was a lesson in humility, one he had never expected to learn on Earth. The commander knew that retreat was their only option, yet even that felt like a trap, as if the sniper would let them go only when it suited them. The Galactic Army had come to conquer, but instead, they were leaving in defeat, each soldier carrying the scars of this encounter, both seen and unseen. The commander felt the bitter sting of failure, knowing that this would be a story told with shame among his people. The sniper, hidden and silent, had shattered their illusion of invincibility, showing them that power was not always in weapons or numbers. Sometimes it was in the patience of a single, unseen enemy, waiting in the shadows, watching and learning. The commander had no choice but to order the retreat, aware that they were leaving with more than just a loss. They were leaving with a reminder of their own limits. The sniper remained hidden, observing the Galactic Army as they made their retreat. Each movement of the alien soldiers reflected defeat, a quiet resignation to the fact that they had been outmatched. What had begun as a mission of conquest had turned into an escape from an enemy they had never even seen. The sniper's objective was clear: ensure the Galactic Army understood that they were not welcome, not on this terrain, not on Earth. The soldiers moved cautiously, heads lowered, glancing nervously into the shadows. Every step back was a reluctant surrender, an admission that their technology, their strategies, and their overwhelming numbers had failed them. Earth's sniper had shown them that here, in this landscape, all their training and tools were useless against someone who knew the land and could exploit every aspect of it. They were no longer an invading force, they were survivors, struggling to make it out unscathed. In silence, the sniper began to anticipate the aliens' escape route. Precision was key. This was no time to reveal even the smallest weakness or rush the task. Earth's defender needed to ensure that each shot counted, that each remaining moment would reinforce the lesson the aliens were learning. The sniper knew that letting them go without a final warning would leave room for them to return. So, with careful aim and patience, the sniper began to strike again. Each shot served as a reminder of Earth's strength, a calculated message to stay away. The soldiers barely had time to process each hit. They felt exposed, helpless, surrounded by shadows that offered no protection. Their faces, hidden beneath helmets, displayed no emotion, but their movements betrayed the fear within. They stumbled, their once unified force broken into smaller, disorganized clusters. This was no retreat in order, it was an abandonment of pride and purpose. The sniper's tactics were as relentless as they were silent. Every shot, every deliberate pause, was intended to etch a memory into their minds. The Galactic Army's remaining soldiers were fewer now, each one acutely aware of the power that the forest held. They were not running from a single human sniper but from the entire concept of an opponent they couldn't anticipate or counter. Fear had taken root, becoming part of them, a weight they would carry back to their own worlds. As the sniper watched, the alien commander, once so full of confidence, struggled to maintain control. His attempts to reorganize his troops were weak, almost futile. The sniper could see he was out of options. His orders barely reached his soldiers, their minds too focused on escape, on putting as much distance as possible between themselves and the unseen hunter. The commander's presence had once inspired fearlessness, but now, his authority was diminished, overshadowed by the primal urge to survive. With each shot, the sniper made it clear that this battle was over, that Earth was defended not by numbers or brute force, but by precision, by patience, by an unyielding will. The Galactic Army, which had come with every intention to dominate, was reduced to fleeing under the cover of shadows. Their advanced weaponry, so impressive in the open fields of other planets, was no match for the unseen, the silent. They would remember this as a loss, one that struck deeper than any other because it attacked the core of their arrogance, their belief in their own superiority. As the retreat continued, the sniper held back slightly, allowing them to move but never too far, always under watch. This was the last message, a statement that Earth's defenses weren't just about stopping them but ensuring they understood that any attempt to return would end in the same result. The sniper's silence was as powerful as their aim, an invisible boundary that the aliens could not cross. By the time the galactic soldiers reached the edge of the forest, they were barely holding on to their last shreds of composure. Each one was marked by the encounter, physically unharmed perhaps, but changed. The commander, no longer holding his head high, looked back once, seeing only the darkness of the forest, a reminder of the adversary he would never see. The sniper had taught them that Earth's greatest weapon was its knowledge of the unseen, its mastery over patience, and its ability to turn the forest into a fortress. The Galactic Army crossed the boundary out of the forest, moving rapidly toward their ships. They knew that Earth was beyond their reach, that this sniper was more than they could handle. Their advanced technology had failed them, not because it was weak, but because it was blind to what Earth's defender truly represented, a silent, relentless force that required no display of power to hold its ground. As they left, the sniper finally relaxed, lowering their weapon. They had done what was needed, and Earth was safe. No medals would mark this victory, no celebrations would follow. But the sniper knew that the Galactic Army would not forget. They had been sent a message stronger than any show of force. They had learned that Earth was not as weak as they had believed, that some battles were not won through sheer power but through understanding, patience, and an unbreakable resolve. The Galactic Army lifted off, their ships carrying them away, but Earth's defender remained, unseen, as always, within the shadows of the forest. The land lay quiet once more, and the forest reclaimed its stillness. The sniper stayed watchful, knowing that while the battle was over, the lesson was only beginning for those who had dared to challenge Earth.